Thank you so much for having me here today, and welcome to everybody who is listening in today. So, I am really pleased to be here to talk about mentoring, which is something that I feel should be part of every academic's job who has arrived, for example, at a particularly senior level within the academy. And I thought that I would start out by providing a definition of mentoring that I actually, is not my definition, it's actually a definition from the European Mentoring and Coaching Council. And I thought that this was a really good definition that I think captures a lot of what mentoring is actually about. And the definition speaks of mentoring as a developmental activity that is really based on trust, and this trust is actually established through conversations between the mentor and the mentee. And really what it aims to do is to develop either the personal or professional competencies of the mentee. So really the focus is on the individual and it's on the solutions. And notice that this says that they generate for their personal and professional, within their personal and professional context. And I think some of that definition will come out in terms of what mentoring is actually about. So mentoring is actually, it's driven by the person who is being mentored or the mentee. So it's the mentee that takes personal responsibility for the mentorship. So it is not the mentor who actually drives this relationship. It is the mentee that does and takes responsibility for that. Now, if you're working, for example, in an academic context, or you're working in a professional context, in a hospital, or wherever you might be working, I think it's really important to say that your mentor should not be the same person as your line manager. I think that's really important. In my experience, the mentor needs to be separate from your line manager, because some of the things that you might want to share with your mentor, you might not want to share with your line manager. So I think that those relationships should not be the same. Mentorship, as the definition said, trust is really fundamental to mentorship. Trust and confidentiality. You must, as a mentee, think that whatever you discuss in that conversation with your mentor will remain confidential. It will just be between you and your mentor. So it's very important that you establish a relationship of trust and you maintain that confidentiality as a mentor. So mentorship is really developmental. It's a collaborative relationship. And it's also, you need to protect the time to enable mentorship to take place. And that is the same when you're talking as a mentor, you have to set the time aside to do the mentoring. And the mentee also has to spend the time to take that time to do it, because it's a very important relationship. And it's something that really needs to be protected in terms of your time. I think the other thing I wanted to say about mentoring is that it's a finite relationship. It's not a relationship that will go on forever. You know, it will come to an end. So there is a defined time frame around mentoring. So that's really important. So I think that as a mentor over many years, there are many benefits to being a mentor. And one of the benefits is the satisfaction that I certainly get from supporting my colleagues throughout their career journey. It really gives you a sense of giving back. You have benefited a lot from the academy. You're now, for example, for me, I'm now at the position that I'm at of being a professor. So I think it is really important that I give back and I share with my colleagues, perhaps who might not yet be at the professorial level. That's really important. And through the mentoring relationship, I also get to share my experiences coming up along that career journey. So I've been in academia, as Elizabeth said when she introduced me, for about 20 years, maybe just over 20 years. And I've had a lot of experiences. I've gained a lot of insights along that journey. And I think the mentoring relationship as a mentor, it gives me that opportunity to share my own experiences and my own insights that might be of some help to the mentee. And it's also, as a mentee, as a mentor, you're able to share sometimes to provide some fresh perspectives on an issue or a problem. So a mentee might be having an issue or a problem. And sometimes because you have had that experience, you can probably provide a fresh perspective that will, perhaps give another way, the mentee another way of seeing things. But I think that the benefit also is that it also raises my own awareness of some of the challenges that my colleagues face that I might not have been aware of before, because obviously there are different challenges that will come up from day to day. So it helps to keep me also informed and aware of challenges that colleagues are facing. And it's a very reflective exercise as well, because not only is the mentee reflecting on their own personal and professional development, but you as a mentor are also reflecting on your own skills and your own development along the way as well. So the whole mentor-mentee relationship is a mutually beneficial relationship. But there are some challenges I find in my own experiences of being a mentor. Now, one of the important things I think as a mentor is that you're not a counselor, right? I'm not qualified as a counselor. I'm not qualified to support people that might be having, whether it might be some mental health challenges. I cannot support somebody in that. So I am not, the mentor is not a counselor. So sometimes it's quite difficult to make that distinction for some people having some challenges and you probably want to help, but you realize that you're not skilled, you're not a person who is a counselor. So you need to know when you need to perhaps suggest that person refer themselves to somebody that can give them some help. So you need to be able to know who to refer them to and how to refer. Sometimes the outcomes of your mentorship are not really known. How do you know when you have been successful? So sometimes your mentees will come back to say, oh, I really benefited from that relationship. It was great and so on. But sometimes mentees are busy in their own lives, in their own careers, and they might not necessarily come back to say anything to you when that relationship has ended. So sometimes it's difficult to establish a causal link between your mentorship and the outcomes for the mentor, unless, of course, they necessarily say that to you, or you do some kind of research around that. But sometimes it's difficult as an individual mentor to know definitively that you have been successful, that there's that causal link. And then also establishing the boundaries as to what the role. Remember, I said that the mentor should not be your line manager, but it's really important to establish that boundary with your mentee, okay? So for example, if you are mentoring a postgraduate research student, you are not their academic supervisor. They have a supervisor, and sometimes it could be that research students are asking you some questions that would be more applicable to their supervisor, and you need to be able to draw that distinction. Another challenge is reserving judgment. You hear a lot of things from your mentees, and sometimes you want to say, no, you shouldn't do that, but you have to reserve judgment. You have to do that very carefully, tread that line very carefully. And another thing that I think is really important is to be able to embrace silence. Sometimes you're having a conversation with your mentee and they're thinking through some issues. They're thinking about what they want to say. And so there's a little silence there. And I think you shouldn't try to fill all of the silence with words all the time. Sometimes it's about allowing your mentee that space to really think and to just embrace that silence, because that silence can be quite productive. So I wanted to talk a little bit about a mentoring program that I'm very much involved in. And I think my time is going, but I'm going to try to talk about this mentoring program a little bit. I'm part of this Generation Delta project that Elizabeth mentioned before. And what we do is that we try to support women who are from racially minoritized backgrounds within the UK who are doing postgraduate research study. And the people on the project, the mentors who are on the project, are also racially minoritized female professors as well. So all of us have gone through some of the struggles that we've had to face in terms of getting to the position that we're at.